Good evening, my friends. This is Paul, and today I'm going to be reviewing Freddi Fish 5, The Case of the Creature of Coral Cove for the Nintendo Switch. As is the case with all four of the other mainline games, I used to love the Freddi Fish games a long time ago on the PC, and I'm so glad that a new generation of people get to experience these masterpieces. Admittedly, upon playing through all 5 games on the Switch, I don't hold Freddi Fish in as much of a regard as I used to, but in retrospect, I think releasing 2 and 5 last, since the order was 3, 4, 1, 2, 5, I do think that was a good call, because I think these last 2 are my favorites, and hopefully I can convince you guys why these are great for people that have nostalgia or for people that have little kids who want something that's non-violent, non-sexual, with no objectionable content whatsoever. Freddi Fish 5 was the final mainline game in the series. There hasn't been a brand new Freddi Fish game since 2001. So I presume if the team already knew that, they wanted to really make sure that they could push the PC to its absolute limits. And I'm pretty sure, if I'm remembering correctly, this was one of those you need Pentium 3 to be able to download this on your computer. And while it's stylistically really similar to the other games, there are a few things that make it stand out. For starters, I feel like they added a couple of black lines around Freddi Fish and Luther in certain scenes to make them stand out more. The animations seem to be a bit better. The voice acting seems to have been pretty much peaked at this point, even if Mike McAuliffe sounds like he got a lot older. I'm sure he was already an adult when he was playing Luther, but it seems like they might have cast a little kid. I'm not sure, but either way, that is a bit noticeable, but otherwise the voice acting is still top-notch, and Annette Tutongi and Mike McAuliffe are absolutely perfect for the roles. One thing that I really like about this game, well, there's 2 things I really like about Freddi Fish 5. The first is that when you're on the main street of the area that you're in, it doesn't actually have a name. As far as I can tell, the camera actually scrolls along with Freddi and Luther, whereas before they would swim to a new location and then the game would just abruptly cut to the new place, whereas now the camera actually pans along, so it's almost like you're seeing one giant plaza that's interconnected. And they also minimized the animations that were close-ups in these sections so that you could really feel like, wow, the PC can actually load one giant street, which to this day is still pretty cool, even if it's slightly choppy, but then again it was in the PC version, and as is the case with every single one of these releases to date, they've changed basically nothing from its original version. It's still pretty much identical to how it always was, so you're not getting any crazy new features like widescreen or remastered soundtrack. You do get that cool new intro with Pajama Sam's hand, but that's about it. I also like how Freddi Fish 5 puts more of an emphasis on adventure over simply MacGuffin hunting, like it did in the previous games. This is the only Freddi Fish game where you just have a linear objective, which is figure out the deal with the sea monster. And instead of collecting a bunch of items, you have to do various tasks that would be a natural progression to what a kid detective would go through. And I really don't want to spoil those steps, because it is a lot of fun discovering, or in my case, rediscovering the process of getting to the truth behind the matter. And it really feels like for the first time in the series, which is weird considering it's the 5th and final entry, that Freddi and Luther actually feel like detectives, which was what the point was all along. So it's great that better late than never, I suppose. Overall, I feel like Freddi Fish 5 more or less perfected the structure of these types of games. Sure, the game is still really easy. It is a game for kids, but it does feel like the puzzles have a lot more thought put into them. I also like how there's only basically 2 variations of what events can take place, as is typically the case with humongous entertainment games, where every single walkthrough of the game will give you different puzzles, but they feel much more elaborate this time around. Like, you can really feel like you're going on a totally new adventure with the same characters and locations. It's kind of unreal how that works. And what's even cooler is that all of the characters have different scenarios now. Like in the previous games, sometimes if you were on a different path, the character wouldn't appear at all, or the character would just be there standing around and you wouldn't have to interact with him or her. Now, every single character will always have a purpose for being there, And if the game couldn't figure something out, they just repurposed that character into another scenario. And I didn't realize how brilliant that was until I literally sat down and started recording this. So yay for me being an external processor thinking as I talk. Overall, I really love Freddi Fish 5 a lot. It might actually be my favorite in the series because it's such a satisfying conclusion to the Freddi Fish 5ology, for lack of a better word. I like how it's a nice long game. It's not like super long, but it's longer than all the other footage that I gathered by far. And it changes enough that repeat playthroughs are satisfying. I like how, unlike Freddi Fish 1, you can actually skip the actions in between areas, so thankfully they have that essential feature fixed. There are no crazy glitches as far as I can tell, besides if I'm nitpicking the area with the broken jug, there is a bit of a black screen going between them, whereas it was a seamless transition in the previous games. But apart from that tiny little nitpick, this has been preserved brilliantly. And I'm really glad that more people can experience the Freddi Fish amazingness. Now, I said this in my Freddi Fish 2 review, but since I'm releasing these both on the same day, might as well say it again. There is now a Freddi Fish collection bundle on the eShop that contains all 5 mainline games for about $40. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that these are pretty much identical to their original versions. So you're essentially paying $40 for straight ports of old PC and Mac games. But I guess it would depend on how much the games would be individually and if this would be more of a bargain, because each of the Freddi Fish games are about $12 each. So just ask yourself, is it worth it going on that nostalgia trip? Or if you have a young kid, do you want to keep that kid occupied for 5 games duration? I think the length is perfect, the controls work really well, the puzzles are perfectly suited to a young mind. The jokes aren't quite as funny as those in, say, the Putt Putt, Pajama Sam, and Spy Fox games, but the dialogue is nice enough where it has its moments where Freddy and Luther make for a good comedic duo. I feel like Luther is more useful than ever. And it truly feels like they're actually a team in this game, which I forgot to say in Freddi Fish 2, but I do agree that that's also a pretty cool thing. So with that, I think you should pick it up. If you don't have a young kid, you're probably not going to like this very much, but if you do, he or she is in for a treat. And if you pick this up, it's probably only going to be for the nostalgia, but it'll be a perfectly amazing preservation of that nostalgia you once had. So with that, thank you very much for watching. Please let me know in the comments what you think of the video, if you have nostalgia for these amazing Humongous Entertainment games, and how does it feel knowing that all of the Freddi Fish games are now on the Switch. So with that, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and until the next time, remember to keep the faith, stay epic, and God bless. Bye!